and welcome to the Zero Studio Buzz. I am Doc and I'm coming to you from Albuquerque in New Mexico, in the beautiful desert where finally we have really been getting some great amounts of rain. And yeah, so this is a good thing because I am trying to get some solar dyeing done before the end of the summer. So actually right now I have some pans with spinning fibers sitting outside in our driveway. I already had them out yesterday, but there was some heavy rains, so I don't think they got enough sun. So today it's looking good and promising. So I think I'm gonna get them done today, and so I can move them inside by the end of the day and rinse them tomorrow. So yes, this is a podcast about the fiber arts, about spinning, about knitting, and about crochet. There's a little bit of everything in today's episode. And I want to start with a project that I have to say I've been inspired by Kia of the Kia Spot Wool Magic podcast. She's a fiber artist who lives in Sweden, and probably most of you will know her. I've been watching her for a very long time, and just in the last weeks she's put out some episodes where she talks about things that she's made. She did a focus episode where she talked about the things that she made with her hand spun, and also just a few days ago she put out an episode where she showed all of her hand spuns, and it's just, that was super inspiring to me. And the episode where she showed her hand spun garments, I mean the things she made with hand spun yarn, so that inspired me to cast on a shawl too with finer hand spun yarns that I had prepped the fiber for all of these skeins that I am using with my drum carders. So it's a different kind of yarn that you get from it. The colors are more blended all together. And let me get this off so you can see it actually a little bit better. This one I just found in a different location, and I think it will also work for this triangular shawl that I am working on. I'll show you in a second. Hope you can see. There's usually for all of these an undertone of a natural undyed fiber, and then I've blended in different colors. I think this is all dyed fibers actually. This one is. This one has some kind of a gray in there. I know I showed them all in the last episode, but these are so fun and I love looking at them. I've made some progress here, and this is a simple triangular shawl where I started with a garter tab. I'm using 4mm needles, I think, and I increase in the center to the left and right of that middle stitch, and on the edge before I get to that garter edge, and it's stockinette, as you most likely will be able to see. And the increases happen only on the right side, and that's how you get the triangle. I am planning to add a lace edge when I'm done with all of my yarns. but I haven't even looked yet because that's going to take me a while. I just love it. I don't do any kind of color management really because I feel like they all fit together. What I am planning to do is up in this section where I am, you need less yarn for a color block than you will need for further along in the shawl, because then your rows are going to be longer. So that's when I'm more likely to use the larger amounts that I have. And I think the next color I will use is probably that little bitty green. And I also found this blended on hand cards with Angora from our little bunny that we had a few years ago. Yeah. Very happy about how this is coming along. I'm excited about it, and I'm thankful for the inspiration. There was just a lot of fuzz flying, so I had to sneeze. Pardon the interruption. Yes, I was saying, if you don't know Kia's podcast, I would suggest to check it out. And especially if you are a spinner who would like to connect with other fellow spinners. Talking about spinning, the reason for me to dig into my hand-spun yarns was that I am starting to make fingerless mitts for the studio tour open house, which I'm gonna host here in December, on December 3rd. Mark your calendars. If you are local, I would love to see you and have you say hello. I always offer fingerless mitts for sale, and I have, a few years ago, I wrote down a pattern called Duke City Mitts, and that's the one that I usually use for simplicity's sake. I just like it. It's like vanilla socks. So I have, since the last episode, I'm not sure if you had already seen this pair, but I had planned to use this yarn, which is so pretty. Hand-dyed fibers spun into 2-ply. That's how I usually spin. I do a 2-ply yarn. And so I did these and these. Also hand spun and hand-dyed fibers by me. And these two pairs were really fun. Same kind of yarn, and I will show you what they are just in a second. Yeah, the upper section on these is more pink. So for these guys, I held 2 yarns together, one of them being this hand-dyed alpaca vintage stash. I don't even remember where I got this, and can't remember ever hearing of that dyer. Royal Fiber Spinnery. I don't know. Not sure where I got that. But buttery soft, I tell you, and I love the colors. And I held it together with some hand spun by me, sorry, noisy. And this was a superwash merino. And they worked great together. Yeah, that's quite a bit, you're gonna say. And I will tell you what got me away from the Duke City mitts in a second. But the next pair I started working on was, I just started. I'm holding this neutral gray with a leftover singles yarn. I don't know what it is, sorry. I wish it was. I wish I knew what it was, but I'm sure it came from Germany. So yeah, and that's for me. I mean, you see the colors I like. I'm gravitating heavily towards the brighter colors. So something like this, that's gets abandoned easily when I see something else that I need or want to make. And I'm going to tell you about that. But first, I want to invite you to join me in making Duke City Mitts. I would like to host a knit along, and I want to call it the Duke City Mania 2022. And hopefully you're going to use the same hashtag on Instagram and on Ravelry. I will set up a thread on Ravelry where I would invite you to post your yarn choices and your progress, knitting progress, or whatever you make or feel like sharing. So the pattern is called the Duke City Mitts, and that's, you find it on Ravelry, and on Ravelry is where we will have the thread. And also, if you would like to participate to win a prize, I would need you to go in that thread and comment there. And when the knit along ends, I will draw a winner from that thread. It's too complicated to factor in Instagram, so I'm sorry about that, but I still would love to see your makings there. I am thinking that the winner of the knit along, I will draw a winner, and the person is going to get either a skein of hand spun yarn spun by me, or if you are a spinner yourself, I would offer you, if you say you'd rather have a braid of my spinning fibers dyed by me, that would also be an option. So either or. Yeah. Okay, so that is the Duke City Mitts and our knit along to start now or whenever. And I will, of course, make many Duke City Mitts, as you can imagine, when you see everything that I've already finished. For you, the sky's the limit, but I'm saying also, like, hey, make one pair. That's totally fine. You don't need to make 10 or 20 pairs like I usually do, because I'm planning to offer them for sale at the studio tour. Yes, so that's the Duke City Mitts fun. And then I went back to a project that I had been working on a few months ago. You may remember that I talked about knitting a sweater for my brother with a special project with a lot of family love flowing into it, because in a way, it commemorates our mother, who was I don't know what to say, a prolific, a continuous sock knitter. She knitted socks for a good cause. And as you can imagine, there were always a lot of sock yarn leftovers. She lived in Germany. She passed away last year. And so there's still a lot of leftover sock yarns, and I thought, because, well, a lot of these leftovers have been touched by her hands, so that's kind of very special. And I thought, I want to make the sweater for my brother. I will hold two strands together, and it will create a sweater that will be very washable, because German sock yarns like Regia, Opal, and all of these brands, Lana Grossa, they're all machine washable, and you can easily, even if you by accident would throw it in the dryer, it's going to be fine. And the reason I'm not further along into the project is that I the first time I started, the neckline was too large. And then the next time I started, the neckline I thought was too tight, but also there was a large section here where I used a kind of a turquoise-ish blue, where I thought that it was really like a block right here. It's just, I thought it's too blue. I mean, then when I was done with that section, I thought this is definitely too blue. He's a green kind of guy. So I asked a few friends if they had leftover German sock yarns that is green heavy, because if you know the European sock yarns, a lot of those are really blue heavy. It's interesting. So people must like the blues more than the greens. I am a green person myself. So I ripped back what I had already knitted, and actually I think this is a little bit of that turquoise-ish blue. I mean, a little bit is fine, but just not too much. So I reached out to some friends and I said, hey, do you have greenish sock yarn leftovers? And kindly, I got a super nice response. And now I'm really set. This is not all that I have received. This is just a small part of it. I have a lot more sock yarn leftovers in another bin in that room over there, but you'll see it as it goes into the project. For now, this is what I frogged, and I decided to make the neckline a little bit larger, and I'm now at the point where the short rows are, where I'm done with the short rows. I started off with 4 millimeters with the ribbing, and then I switched to 4.5 millimeters. And I am going in the round now. Yeah, raglan. And I had to, because I was already quite far down where I thought now I would split the sleeves, I could actually, I pulled the needles and I measured, and I could do some, I realized a few things that I would like. I measured for my stitch count for the sleeves when I split and for the body. And I think now I'm planning to make up the body a little bit smaller in comparison to the sleeves. I think I'm keeping the same, the body a little bit larger. I decided on 8 stitch cast on under the arms. But I also realized that by the time I get to where I have to split of the sleeves, I will not have a measurement that I like. So I would like to get a little bit deeper, because I'm thinking this is more like it's going to be kind of like a throw on over a shirt, over an indoor, maybe a long sleeve shirt, kind of like for a wear in the garden purpose type of sweater. So it needs to be loose. So I would not have gotten far enough down with my stitch count. So now I'm thinking what I will do to resolve that problem is to have a section in the middle here where I will change the frequency of my increases. In the first version, I did, I increased for the raglan every other row. Now I will have maybe five increases where in between I will work 2 rounds, which will give me 5 extra rounds. So I will see if that is enough or if I will do even a little bit more. Yeah, I'm excited to be starting this again. And the plan is that he's going to come and visit us this year, end of October, with his wife. And so hopefully I would really like to have this done by then and give it to him in person. yeah, that's the sweater for Ralphie. And then showed you the shawl, showed you the sweater, but then something happened. Yes, all of a sudden I remembered, hey, my daughter's birthday is coming up. Trust me, I should have been. Of course, I was aware of it early on, but I always love to make something for her. And I kind of like when I'm not at home, I don't feel inspired to think about the things. But when we got back, I dug into the fibers, into the yarns, and then I found again this yarn. I mean, I showed you one of the yarns that I had purchased in Alaska that she had picked in a yarn store. And then also, I don't think I showed you this last time, but I had bought this yarn with her at the flea market in Germany. So I thought, okay, let's just do this. Let's just pull out my knitting magazines. I never found anything that really excited me on Ravelry. I was looking a little bit, but it's kind of like hard to find something that I thought suitable. So I pulled out Rebecca magazines, and I believe the Rebecca came out for a few years in English also, but I don't think they do that anymore. I don't think they publish in English anymore. So I am sorry for you English speakers that it's going to be frustrating too, that you cannot, that you won't be able to adapt a pattern. But I thought I'm going to show you anyways, because maybe I can inspire you to pull out the magazines that you have and maybe find something in them. I was just talking to to a local knitting friend, my friend Lauren, and we were both saying we used to have magazines, but now when we look for something, we go on Ravelry because it's just so easy. You look there and you pick your pattern, and you don't buy an expensive book or magazine where you end up not knitting from it a lot of times. So, but this Rebecca magazine, which all of mine are in German only, I used to buy it regularly, and all of these are still really nice. And I noticed that maybe back then I wanted to make certain things for whatever reason, and now over the years my taste has changed, but I find other things, they're not really outdated. So maybe I can at least inspire you to pull out some old magazines and go through them and find something that you would like to make. It was really, I enjoyed it very much. I also found this magazine, which I think is published by the German company Lana Grossa, and the things, I'm just going to go through it quickly, what I found, what I would like to make. In the German episode, I am telling you a little bit more about because I always write it on there, which magazine it was, but of course it doesn't help you if you don't speak German. So all of these are things that I could see myself making for my daughter. You're going to say, when is her birthday? Yes, it's on September 2nd. So the deadline, I've missed the deadline, except for one thing that I made for her, and I will show you in a second. But I'm still thinking there's a lot of things that I can see myself making for her, and I thought they're all cute, and I want to show them all And she likes to wear cropped. So things like this, I can totally alter and turn into something cropped. Also, I think she would wear the dress, but shorter, so that's easy to do. And this could be turned either into a short dress or a crop top, where I'm thinking shorten it like this. So what you're gonna want to know, what did you do? Well, I thought I'm gonna make this bikini top from this magazine, and the reason actually wasn't even so much that I didn't see anywhere something better, but I loved that this top came with a crochet chart, and I love working from charts. So this is kind of like a funny story, is because I don't know, I like the picture. I thought that's cute. You can do that. You're just gonna make it in that off-white. And I started, yes, and hello. Who can wear a bikini like this? I don't know. I mean, if you would wear this, you may as well not wear anything. Hello? No, not working. So then I looked at the pattern. I thought, okay, I can modify this. Next version that I started looks like this. And I thought, yet again, it's almost a little bit wavy from the fabric. So it would not be like, because it would have to be a little more shaped. So I managed to change it yet again, and I'm gonna show you a picture of me wearing it. Don't be scared. I put it on over my shirt. It's tiny. I don't know. We'll see. It's kind of hard to make something like this without the person being there to try it on. But it was a relatively quick project, and I can definitely do it again in other yarns and other colors. I already pulled out the one that I had used for my water bottle carrier that I showed you in the last episode. That beautiful, colorful Lang. I also pulled out this one. I have a few skeins. I have 4 balls of this, but I actually thought then that it's probably a little bit too heavy for this kind of project. This one I have 2 balls of, and I will have leftovers from this with the project that I'm going to show you in a second. Yes, so this is what I have left of the 2 balls of yarn. I mean, this is the one that I worked from. I haven't weighed it. I'll probably use a little bit more than half of it. So I'll see what, and I'm going to do something else for her from that yarn. So, but what did I do? So in the end, I also pulled out this, and it's kind of, you're gonna laugh and you're gonna say, what? You wanted to do what? You wanted to make this in 1 week and then send it to her? Yes, because that was the plan. I thought, hey, yeah, I can whip out a sweater in a week. Are you laughing as hard as I think you are? Oh my gosh, yeah. So the problem of this sweater was, once I started working on it, I realized, wait, this is kind of long. And she likes a lot of her garments cropped. So without further ado, I show you where I am. That looks kind of good. Not too hard, right? That in itself, not too hard, except for I wanted to make it cropped. I wanted to make it short. So you need to imagine there was a chart that factored in this and this, the V-neck. So I had to alter that chart, which then of course had to work for the whole sweater. So that's what I did. Yeah, it could have been so easy, but I had to make it hard because I wanted to get it just right. Also, I need to say I am so used to knitting things top down. That's how I work projects these days. This was not quite sure from when this magazine was, but definitely everything. First of all, just one size. Hello, Rebecca people, size inclusivity, where you need to pick up your game. Hopefully they've changed that and made adjustments. One size, it only came in one size. So, but also it has to be seamed. It's okay. I mean, I used to do that all the time, but still it's quite time consuming. Shoulders, I should have done a 3 needle bind off, but I didn't. Here, side seams, and then of course you have a set in sleeve. That's also needs to be done. It takes time. So, well, to alter the sleeve. Okay, and in between, let me interrupt this program for a short intermission where I talk about this. Nobody grabbed me or did anything to me. I feel like this looks really totally horrible, like someone manhandled me or something. I don't even know how this happened, and it gets almost worse every day. It doesn't hurt or anything. I don't know what I bumped into. No clue. Whatever. Okay, so much about this. Back to my sweater. So I decided I will alter the chart, and I looked at it and I thought, okay, here's a section that I can take out, and I'm going to take out this section. Okay, that would work. But then of course it had to be adjusted in this for this whole section, and not just for the part before you start the sleeve opening and the V-neck. So I grabbed some graph paper and I sat down at my kitchen table, and boy, I'm telling you, there was smoke coming out of my head as I was trying to figure this out. You should have seen me. I was just really going a little bit crazy here over this pattern. And my poor husband, every time, it's the kitchen. I sat on the kitchen table, and when he came through, he's like starting to chat me up, and I'm like, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. Leave me alone. I have to do this now. I can't do this with you interrupting me. No, it's not going to work out. It was a challenge, I'm telling you. Often these magazines instructions are so rudimentary anyways. It just says, okay, decrease. I mean, for the sleeve, it's that way. It says, okay, you work the chart for the bell sleeve, and then it just says increase every so and so many rows, so and so many times, and work the arm, the upper section here like this with so and so decreases. And you're like, okay, what about the chart? What am I supposed to do? It's all intuitive. So if you have never done anything like that, you're in serious trouble altering the pattern or not, because this is really quite demanding. But enough of that. You see, I did it, and I just wanted to show you. I brought you all of my notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, and now you know why there was smoke coming out of my head and why I was going so crazy. Oh my gosh, I'm glad when this thing is done and over, and I hope she's gonna like it, because if not, I will throw it in the arroyo. Okay, let me show you the sleeve. Because I have one sleeve done, what I usually do is I mark my increases, because I don't count rows as I go. I count the rows from the last increase to the next one, and then I mark it so don't lose track of them. This upper section also, I finished it and then I had to rip back, and that was another reason when I realized this is not going to work out. First of all, the sleeve in itself took me longer to finish than I thought. I thought I could knit a sleeve in a day, but heck was I wrong. And then certain things in that chart, they were quite demanding. So I had to rip back several times. And then, of course, this upper section was not fitting. So I hope it's going to fit now. The way I do it normally, I take these little hair clippy things, the small size, and use those to fit in the sleeve. And before I actually do the sewing. Yeah. And this is where I am with sleeve number 2. The main part, you may have guessed that I already blocked this main part because it looked so miniature that I thought, let's pull it through the water and stretch it out a little bit so I actually feel like it may fit her. I have to tell you that I squeezed into this thing. Yes. So then I knew it was gonna fit her. Yes, I squeezed into this. You don't want to see how this looks like. But just so you know, I told you. I did. What next? So this was the sweater. So I sent her the bikini top, and this she will get when she comes for an extended weekend visit in about 3 weeks. I showed you the patterns that I have, and I wanted to show you some more knitting patterns. I pulled out a few more that I can see myself making for her, but I also wanted to show you this gorgeous book that I have found for $3 at an estate sale. And I have nothing planned as of now to knit, but I'm thinking it's just such a beautiful book. I'll show you upside down. Well, maybe not this one. Yeah. Very inspiring, very beautiful, and the focus is really on mitts, even though it says that it's mittens and socks. Yeah. Lucky, lucky, lucky for $3. I said that I'm hoping to inspire you. Oops, I didn't keep the camera. I hope I inspired you to look at some old magazines, and because that's what I did. And I wanted to show you a few things that I discovered in some other magazines. This one is called Stricktrends. And I'm just pulling out a few things that I thought I might be making for my daughter. I mean, I was thinking of her when I put my markers here. Even though this one I mainly marked because of this gorgeous neck section down there. That's, I think, a little bit too much for my taste, but you could easily knit just about anything. I mean, you could do just plain stockinette and just have only this beautiful lace, crochet lace up there. I thought this was really very pretty too. And more, again, crochet. Definitely can't have to be a little bit kind of like maybe in your 20s to wear this. My daughter keeps telling me how hip crochet is these days. I mean, there's stuff on TikTok, on Instagram, all over, yeah. I remember seeing this when I got this magazine. That was 2016, 6 years ago. Oh my gosh, I thought this was so gorgeous. So why have I not made it? I don't know. I definitely should. Another one from 2016, and here's an inspiration for the knitters that are, well, not 20, I would say, at least not in these colors. But I thought that was such a cool design. And even though I'm not much of a winter skirt person, but then there's this. I've never made a knitted skirt. Have you? Thought this was really cool. Again, combination of knitting and crochet. Here, oh, one is a dress and one is a vest. Cute. Always thinking different colors or solid color. Also thought that this was kind of cool. Well, everything I marked was cool. Oopsie. Come back. Come back. I really liked the concept of this thing. I've made one of these a few years back, maybe you remember. But for myself, I probably would also make it shorter and probably not with that crochet edge. But I'm actually already thinking about a yarn that I would love to use for this. Ideas. Magazine from 2014. Again, thinking of my daughter. 2010. I don't know. Shawl. I thought that's a super cool pattern. Crochet. And the last one is something that if you've known me for a long time, you will have seen this on me or showing it as something that I have made actually many times. I've knitted this baby in many colors, never striped. But the yellow vest is something that I've always wanted to make and never have. So why not, right? So those were my pattern inspirations for you. But another thing that I brought to show is my handspun yarn that I've dug out to show you, but also what I have spun since I met you last. I had a bag of what they call odds and ends by Into the World. Here's the label. Not sure what that was from. I think I got that from a D-Stash, and I don't know if they still dye, but the bag had all kinds of different odds and ends. And I am just always amazed about how beautiful colors look when they are combined in spinning a 2-ply yarn. I have yet to come upon a combination where I was like, this is ugly. I always think of a garden where all the flowers can be next to each other. Yeah, really like it. Just spun this the other day when I watched Kia's podcast. Kia, I don't know if you're watching this, but if you are, this is what I spun when I was watching you. Showing off your hand spun yarns. This is another little skein that I spun the other day. It was a Corriedale, 42 grams. I dyed this and it had a lot of whites, so that's why it turns out kind of pastelish. And the Into the World, by the way, those were 97 grams. I also spun another tiny sample skein of something that I have a fair amount of. I purchased this in 2019 from our local New Mexican fiber mill in Mora. And it's a blend of Romney sheep wool, which is not really a fine wool, and Angora, which is on the other end of the spectrum, extremely soft. So I was very curious about how this would spin up, and it was literally a dream to spin. I spun 2-ply, and I have a Saxony production wheel where my preferred way of spinning is the long backward draw. And there's still stuff where I cannot do it so well, but this worked super nicely with the long backward draw, where you pinch with your left hand, the 2 fingers, and the other hand moves. Yeah, really fun. So what I'm gonna do now, I think I will dye it up in a solid color. I thought, I don't know, you could dye it also after spinning, but I think the spinning is more fun if you dye it beforehand. And what I'm doing right now, as long as we still have this strong sunshine of the later summer, not even that late yet, I do solar dyeing. So I have, right now actually, I have 7 or 8 pans out in the driveway. I use roasting pans mainly that I cover with aluminum, and then they sit in my driveway. And they usually spend a whole day out there. I had them out yesterday, and after 3 or 4 hours of sun, I had to move them because some rain and a thunderstorm came in, and it was too cloudy for the rest of the day. And I'm not complaining because we're in the desert. We are grateful for all the rain we get. So today I just left them outside, and today I moved them back out in the sun. And what I will do is I will take them in tonight and rinse them tomorrow, because for all of you home dyers, the secret to dyeing your own roving is really to be patient. So what I will do also is I will fill a bin with rinsing water tonight, So it will have exactly the same temperature tomorrow as my cooled down pans with a roving, and then that's what I will use to rinse them. Yeah. So that was that about the dyeing, and I will eventually have some of my New Mexican Rambouillet roving, the last of that. I will also have Corriedale, and I have some Shetland. That all of those will be available for purchase. I will not reopen my Etsy shop to high of fees. I am constantly thinking about what I would like, how I would like to offer this to you, because I know there are spinners out there who would like to purchase some fibers, and I just really don't know how to make this available to you until I have my online yarn store set up. Just don't know. But as of now, I still need to work with fibers and braid them and label them and weigh them one more time and all of that good stuff before it's even possible to offer that to you. Okay, I have brought more yarns that I would like to use for fingerless mitts. And this is the only one that I dug up that is not hand spun. It is 100% alpaca that is probably hand dyed, and I thought it's something that I could use like I did for the other mitts, where I can hold it together with another thinner yarn, because yeah, sometimes they're kind of like a little bit too thin for fingerless mitts. This is one that is kind of borderline hand spun by me, dyed fibers by me. Same here, don't know what the fibers were. Same here, don't know what the fibers were, but I'm thinking this feels like it has an alpaca content. So all of these I plan to use for Duke City mitts. This, I feel like I've made something for my mother of. I think I may have made her a hat at some point. Not quite sure. It's a beautiful, very soft yarn. Same with this. And I was hopeful that it gives the fiber content, but no, it only says that it's about 55 grams. Labeling, I'm getting better, I'm trying. This was some blend dyed by a local New Mexican lady. Fistful of Fiber is her handle. Don't know if she still dyes. It's an alpaca merino silk blend, 50-30-20, super lovely, but also fairly thin. Not sure if I can actually really use this. No, I gotta do some rearranging and grab the big bin. I think in the English podcast I already showed you what became of my bats, my wild and crazy woolen bats. This, I have to say, I did not particularly enjoy spinning this. As a yarn, it looks really cool, but it's probably still too thick for fingerless mitts. I don't know, maybe I will have a little sample, but it's pretty colors. Yeah. Then there was this found in stash. I believe it is New Mexican Rambouillet, my Rambouillet, dyed by me. I always say my Rambouillet because I feel like I think a lot of people how can I say that? To have it, there is commercially prepared ramble available. What I carry is actually the last of the fibers that I sent out to Zeilinger wool mill in Michigan a few years ago. So I got the fleece and I had it turned into spinning top with the advantage versus the commercial Ramley that it was a very, very soft fiber because the crimp was very pronounced and very visible, and the yarn retained a super nice springiness. In fact, I made a sweater with this yarn, which I loved making. And at some point, yes, Marina, I will have an episode where I show all of my sweaters, and then we will talk about the lovely yarn again. Same quality. No idea how much. Taki, don't do it. Oh, this was Into the World Falkland, 13 grams, which I spun in 2021. This was Lincoln fiber from, it's also a sheep breed that I purchased from the local fiber mill. It's kind of like, this is really kind of coarse, so I'm not sure if I will even use this for fingerless mitts. This is something that I dyed many, many years ago. Also from fibers, I think mainly Rambly, local New Mexican fibers. I think this may have come from our Rambly farm in the southeast. Yeah, I once went there. That was amazing. She has so many sheep. Amazing lady, incredible sheep farmer, one of the last here in New Mexico. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Twisted Dye Kitchen. Sherry doesn't always put things in her shop, but she's an amazing fiber artist. She actually recently did a destash on Instagram of her supported spindles, if you want to take a look. Twisted Dye Kitchen is her online handle. Handling these woolly, fluffy skeins always makes me sneeze, so sorry for that. So Sherry, even if she doesn't have anything in her shop, you can reach out to her because she does these amazing blends and does bats. This was a set of poonies that she gifted me. And this was bamboo, silk, and merino. Lovely, lovely. So this I already showed you on the last podcast. Here, I think this was also, yeah. Twisted Dye Kitchen, spun from a bat. Gorgeous with glitter. Here we have, I always think that these two should go together. Maybe similar fiber, I don't know. I don't know what this was, but it's very, very soft. Just like this. Sherry, you wrote that this is BFL, but I feel like there must be something else in here because it's so insanely buttery soft. Again, Twisted Dye Kitchen. This I showed you last time from Nanette, and this is actually a commercially prepared Ramolay. I mean, not that mine is not commercially prepped, but it's really different. Nanette Wake Studio is her name on Instagram, and we had talked about this where she said, yes, what I can get my hands on is so different than what you have. And so she tried my Rambouillet and she loved it. And here, oh yes, I spun this just also recently. And on the bag, it said Punta. I got this in a D-stash, I do know that. I dyed and spun this just a week ago. And I am thinking, I did a little bit of research, correct me if you know better. I think Punta refers to either a farm or a location in South America, but the fiber should be Corriedale. That's a lot of stuff. These two are kind of like, they feel kind of firm and dense, but I thought, well, if I combine them, I could totally combine these two, like make for Dukes, like use this for the bottom part of the hand, and then have do the upper edge in the solid color. I think that would look cool. Both of these, this green heavy one and this one, are ancient because I labeled them with my old label, Sheep on a Spring, which is long gone. It's kind of funny to find these from time to time. Okay. 2019, 140 grams. Yeah, no, this is, I don't know, it's kind of like a denser, firmer, slightly scratchy, and definitely heavy yarn. So I don't think this is actually gonna work for fingerless mitts. Still pretty. Yes, and so now we have come to the end of this podcast. I showed you everything I wanted to show you. I hope you enjoyed this new episode, and I will come back to see you again in about 2 weeks max. And until then, take good care. I hope you're working on something nice. I wish you happy knitting. Bye.